So I recently saw Pokémon the Power of Us in theaters, and to be honest, I really didn't know what to expect. With a new studio and director, I felt anything was possible. After watching it, however, I cannot begin to express just how much I enjoyed this movie. It's definitely my personal favorite film that the franchise has put out in the last decade. Also, just to clarify, this video will be 100% spoiler free. But without further ado, is The Power of Us the new best Pokémon movie? Let's find out. Right off the bat, we're introduced to many new characters, all of which are very distinct from one another. And this becomes a major theme throughout the film, as the main cast is made up of people of different ages and backgrounds. The cast contains not just Ash, but also a high school athlete, a compulsive liar, a shy and nervous researcher, an old woman with a fear of Pokemon due to a traumatic experience, and the young daughter of a mayor. Comparing this group to the Sun and Moon crew, you can definitely tell which group is more diverse. And unlike Sun and Moon, it actually doesn't feel like there's too many main characters. They all work off of each other in clever and sometimes even hilarious ways, and I never felt like any of them felt out of place. That's not to say I personally loved every character. The compulsive liar Callahan could get a bit irritating at times, but he was never that bad. And the movie doesn't feel like it would have been any better if he wasn't around. None of the characters go through any huge life-changing development, but I feel they don't really need to. It's clear that the writers intended for the characters to find themselves, not perfect themselves. The movie is set in Fulla City, where a wind festival is held every year in order to honor Lugia. However, things quickly take a turn for the worse, causing the entire city to be in trouble. This means our heroes will have to put their differences aside in order to save the city that many of them call home. The mythical Pokemon Zeraora is also involved, but it's kinda hard to talk about without getting into spoiler territory. One thing that really helped the movie feel alive is the location. I love just how beautiful and lively Fulla City is. It really makes me want a location like this in the next mainline games. The movie even applies politics to the city, and makes the viewer question when or if lying to the public is alright. Now I've gotta give props to Wit Studios for the animation. The new art style feels right at home with the Pokemon series, and I love the new designs of Ash and Team Rocket. Take note, Sun and Moon. The animation is fluent, and while it can be a bit exaggerated, it never feels choppy. And yeah, the CG is pretty obvious and doesn't blend in all that well, but hey, it still looks a hell of a lot better than Celebi's Nasty Nest. I'd also like to mention that the film actually keeps the original Japanese soundtrack. You'd think this shouldn't be an issue in 2018, but Pokemon movies have had a recent habit of changing music in the international release. However, for some reason, they did change the ending theme by Porno Graffiti, who also did the first opening for My Hero Academia. I put a link in the description if you want to give it a listen. The new ending theme is not nearly as catchy, but it's possible that it may have been changed due to international licensing issues. Now, there's one more aspect of the movie that I feel I should mention, and that's a little something called Pokemon Power. When I first saw the trailer, I feared that this would turn into some Deus Ex Machina plot device, but luckily I was wrong. Instead, what we got was a connection between all the characters. Earlier I mentioned just how different every character is from one another, but they do all have one thing in common. They all have Pokemon by their side, even if the Pokemon doesn't necessarily belong to them. And Pokemon Power is something that I feel exists outside of just this movie, or even the franchise as a whole. The theater that I watched this movie in was filled with a diverse group of people. It was a diverse group of people you would never expect to see all together at once, and yet, a love of Pokemon brought us together. It was a true case of Pokemon Power, otherwise known as The Power of Us. Overall, this film showed just how much a bit of ambition can pay off. It doesn't feel like one of the classic movies, but it also doesn't feel like one of the newer ones either. It may not be my all-time favorite in the long-running franchise, but The Power of Us is definitely worth a watch for both new fans and series veterans alike.